Hi, my name is Hyunh. I'm one of the application engineers at Hawkridge Systems, and today I want to go through performance evaluation in assemblies. Assembly Expert's been renamed to Performance Evaluation in 2016, and what it's going to do is help you analyze your current performance of your assembly, and then also make any recommendations to help improve it. We're going to be able to find performance evaluation under the Evaluate tab, and three indicators we want to look out for. First one is making sure that things pass our diagnostic tests, any diagnostic warnings, and in some cases where it's just going to give us information. Right? So if we look at all the information, for example, it'll tell us how many mates are evaluated, if there's any in-context circular references. Here will give us a rebuild report based off the last rebuild. Now if you don't see the rebuild report, that's because the rebuild time is taking less than 10 milliseconds. As long as it's more than that, it'll go ahead and give you a rebuild report. As well as on the bottom, total number of components in your assembly itself. Right? It'll tell you how many parts, how many sub-assemblies, as well as maximum depth. Now if I go ahead and close down my performance evaluation, what maximum depth means is how many parts or how many sub-assemblies it goes down in terms of levels. So for example, if I had my RC boxer, all these are top level, which is just going to be on our first level. So this engine block would be considered on the first level. Now if I go to my carburetor, if I can expand this out, my carburetor has an air filter, which has a sub-assembly in it, and then also there's a flash boot. So if I look at my breadcrumbs, not including the top level, it has 3 levels. So that's the maximum depth. That has the farthest that it goes down in my top level. So now, if we look at the diagnostic tests that have passed, we have the previous version references. Basically, it's saying all my reference files are up to date in the latest version of SOLIDWORKS in 2016. If I had something in 2015 and 2014, I'll want to go ahead and save and just make sure those are up to date because it does affect your assembly performance. Also, large assembly mode is just making sure that if we need it, right, it's turned on, but in this case we're under the threshold. In this case we set it to be 100 and it's 82, so that's why it's off. And then now we're going to go ahead and look at some of our diagnostic warnings. The first one is it's just telling me one component is very far away from the assembly origin. Now because these components are very small on the screen, the graphics area might appear to be empty. So if I close this down and do a zoom to fit, you're going to see it's kind of as it mentioned, the components almost disappear. And the reason is because my assembly origin is right here. And if I scroll down to my big head right here, I have my origin over here. Right? So what the performance evaluation will do if I click on show these parts is just going to bring it closer to my origin for me. Notice it gets dismissed. And then I can decide how I want to go ahead and situate that component with my assembly. Is it something I brought in accidentally or something that I want to mate up on this side, for instance. So returning back to our performance evaluation, one of the last things I want to talk about is verification on rebuild. In this case, we have it turned on. So just to kind of give you a background, when you have the option off, the software is going to check every new or changed feature against any adjacent faces and edges. For most situations, it's adequate and it's going to give you a faster rebuild of your model. But when it's on, the software is going to check every new or changed feature against all existing faces and edges, not just the adjacent ones. So when you're rebuilding your model, it's going to be considerably slower and more CPU intensive. So in this case, it's more thorough. So if you're seeing slow rebuild times, our recommendation is to go to System Options, Performance, and uncheck Verification on Rebuild. It'll be the first icon. And then once that's off, right, you go into your rebuilds and then continue your work. But then just check it on periodically because once again, the verification on rebuild is going to be more thorough. Right? You will just want to make sure there's no errors in your features and in your parts. Also, and last thing to point out too is the beauty of performance evaluation is if we're looking, for example, hey, are there any hidden or suppressed components, or even how many components are inside my assembly? Instead of having to go through your assembly tree and count, right? what you can do is open up performance evaluation. You can see how many there are, and then also if there are any suppressed or hidden components in this case. In this case, there's 1 suppressed and 12 hidden. And really what performance evaluation is going to do is not going to do your design intent. It's only going to give you suggestions, and for instance, like, hey, if there's hidden components and suppressed components, this is how many there are. A way to select them, if I go to my selection tools, I can go to select hidden. You can see it'll select all of them for me, as well as the same thing if I want to go ahead and go to select, suppress. Then I can go and right click in my feature tree and I can go and unsuppress any components. That's once again in the case of if I want to go ahead and show all my hidden components and then unsuppress the existing ones. So in today's video, we went over in detail how performance evaluation can help us understand the current performance of our assemblies and see if there's anything we can do to improve it. This ranges from making sure all your files are up to date, using large assembly mode, seeing if there's any circular references, taking a look at the rebuild report, or just looking at simple things like how many components are in your assembly, if there's any components that are hidden or suppressed, or how deep your top level assembly goes down. Stay tuned to our Hawkridge Systems YouTube channel, and thanks for watching.